Hey guys, welcome to Celia's Playlists. Today I am here with David, who makes music under the name Dream Optimist. Hey David, how's it going?
Hey, it's going all right. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So, David, can you tell me a little bit about your musical history?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I used to play in a lot of live performing bands, punk kind of indie rock stuff around San Francisco, and in fact have a couple bands that toured and played live all the time. Then kind of got into theater and music for ads and music for short films. After those bands kind of imploded, although we did have one album that got into the CMJ charts
Cool.
under 200 many years ago, but then just kind of took a lot of time off for various personal reasons and came back with this project kind of after simultaneously starting to try to write a musical, which is still ongoing also. So kind of like all roads led back to just creating a project to kind of push more music out as an opportunity for creative expression.
That's really cool. And I love that you have like the live music background going into this project. Do you think that that had any influence in your writing style?
I think so because the live experience is so about dynamics and considering how to connect with an audience. And although, I played to some larger audiences, some smaller audiences, but overall, imagining your music being consumed, it's, not to be too reductionistic about it, but like it's a matter of imagining your music as a product that's being consumed by an audience. And so what matters to them? And so are they there to dance? Are they there to listen? Who are you trying to target? Or, who do you imagine listening? And so even just if I'm making a video for social media, my natural inclination now is to play with a lot of dynamics and just rising and falling, and even if it's just me and an acoustic guitar. For me, the trick is bringing that into a predominantly studio focused recording, because the process of recording, when it's mostly just me working on it, is a little more challenging to kind of keep in mind, dynamics and audience and all that. Whereas playing it on having that social media presence and focus actually really helps kind of keep that audience focus present, which I think is where the emotion to me really comes from, is that connection with an audience, real or imagined.
David, I want to dive into this topic with you because I think that we're going to have a really interesting conversation about this. But real quick, before we do that, can you just tell people a little bit about the I guess the genre and the type of music that you make, so that it's contextually going to make sense once we jump into this, like, talking about a little bit about the social media stuff. But I also know you have a background of sync license related stuff.
Yeah. Right now, so this Dream Optimist was launched with these sort of like indie synth pop project songs. I kind of had some songs that had been laying around for a while, and I just fleshed them out more and added more lyrics. And it was a real departure from anything I'd done before. I'd kind of been in these bombastic rock bands before that were kind of messy and loose and went all over the place. And so this was calmer and really positive in focus, and really, it was always melodic, but melodic and harmonic, and a lot of instrumentation and violin and clarinet and horn and whatnot. Um, which that kind of came from because the last thing I had done really was I'd spent a couple of years doing music for ads a while ago, about 10 years ago. And a lot of that was just really varied. So I did a classical song, and I did a steel drum song, and I did, just a hard rock song and an electronic kind of house song. And so really kind of learning how to do a lot of different things I didn't know how to do, which that came from my having done a lot of theater scoring and musical direction in San Francisco, where they just needed what they needed, and I had to kind of figure it out. And so it was a lot of like realizing that I liked that kind of thing, that music as problem solving, and like, we're going to make something. So to support this scene, it needs to sound something like this, whether it's a short film or a theater or whatnot. And so that was a lot of instrumental work. And as I said, even getting into like classical instrumentation and orchestration, or semi-classical, I guess. So, I'm also doing a lot of instrumental work on the side that maybe isn't quite getting out the door because it's just hard to find time for everything. And but I have this big backlog of songs that I'm trying to produce into this project, just because it's a nice kind of just way to focus my energy.
I like that it's giving you an outlet, basically, for all of the creativity that happens in your head. Because I, as someone that has a lot of creativity in their head, understand needing somewhere to put it and also a place to like house it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
something to have as the umbrella thing, and that's kind of how we ended up here, in one way, shape, or form.
yeah.
So I like that you just like you have like a bunch of different things in your background. So this is going to be an interesting conversation as we move forward. You seem like you have just as many projects and things going on in your head as I do. So so David, I know that you've been one of the people that have embraced the online landscape. What kind of allowed you to take that step, or like what fired you up to take that step? Because I know a lot of people make the music and then they put it out, but they aren't, super comfortable putting themselves on camera.
Sure. I mean, I think part of it does go back to my live experiences. My bands. So I grew up listening to, I mean, sure, pop music from the 80s and 90s, and rock and whatnot. I mean, and there's a lot of detail in there that, but also novelty music. And not just like Weird Al Yankovic, although him too, but like Dr. Demento, and really going into like the just weird kind of pointless music of the last 100 years. And I say pointless in a positive way. I mean, people were like, it would be funny if we record a track of someone trying to play the trumpet while they're laughing. Let's do that, and like, and there's a very famous record, right? The "Okay Laughing" record is one of the first novelty songs, and put to tape anyway. And so, like, I had bands that we would have toaster races. We'd bring a couple toasters on stage and have audience members come up and try to toast bread faster. A really silly idea, but like, because also like the toasters work differently. Like, it's not, we would just do goofy audience engagement things, and so that was kind of how I came up. And I mean, I also did music for sketch comedy shows and music for all these. So it was always silly. And I mean, I did music for a sci-fi sketch comedy show where we would do little snippets of different sci-fi songs, whether the ET theme or a disco version of the Star Wars theme or whatever. So then and I'd had all this intention to get back to music through the 2010s, or I guess late 2010s. I was always kind of writing more music, and had all these projects just sort of simmering. And then, I mean, COVID hit, and so I no longer had the opportunity to see friends as much, which also, I mean, as a slightly older guy, people stop hanging out in person anyway. Um, and so I was kind of like, you know what? And we have a piano in my house, and so I'm just gonna double down in this direction and make some songs, and then do some promotion, kind of figure it out. And my initial plan was actually to actually not show myself, my face in my videos, because I actually thought, who wants to see me? Like, that's pointless. Like, I don't want to put people off, frankly. But then I was like, you know what? No one's seeing these videos anyway. It's so hard to be seen. So I'm just not going to worry about it. And so now, it's the distance between an idea and a produced video. I mean, I make very low budget videos, but I'll just be like, I want to do a cover of this song. So I'm just going to bang that out. And it takes me as long as it takes to record the thing, because usually I can pick it up fast, and then I post it, and sometimes people like it, sometimes they don't, and then or do a promotion for my own thing, or whatever. So really, it's just a willingness to be experimental and silly and not take it too seriously, but also understanding that the whole point is that nobody, like, it's so loud out there, and most likely no one's ever going to see what I'm doing anyway. And I played in bands for years where we'd have a couple big shows, but mostly no one heard us. And so I really just wanted someone to hear the music I was making. And I don't expect tens of thousands of people, but there's a few people that I've had reach out over the last 2 years, and they said, I really like what you're doing. This actually meant a lot to me. And then there's the next day, and you deal with life. But that moment, like, that actually it's really cool when it happens, rare though it is.
I totally understand that. I could just sit here and listening to you like talk, because like I can tell how passionate about this you are. And you know, it's really cool to hear that, you know, you're taking these steps and you're not allowing things to, like, you know, be that limiting belief. Because I actually was watching a video, and one of the limiting beliefs that people, especially if they're over a certain age, if they're an artist, they think, I'm too old, I'm not young enough to be an artist. But if you think about it, you're making music from a perspective of, you know, an older person, and also older people need music that they can relate to. So
Sure.
I'm glad that you also are putting yourself on camera, because people are going to see, hey, like, this looks like, you know, someone that I could be friends with, or someone that, like, you know, I would like to go see, or, like, you know, I would grab a drink with David,
Sure, you could have a
like,
beer with me. Yeah.
exactly. So
Well, and it's and if I'm wrong and it is true, like actually people don't want to see me. They don't have to. It's really easy to
exactly,
not see me. It's way easier to not see me than it is to see me, actually.
that's true too. So I want to kind of like ask you kind like a little bit about. There's so many things I want to ask, but I want to ask about your process. So I know that you have this extensive background in music, but when you're either taking songs from, I guess, like your someone called it a scrapbook earlier, like essentially like the things that you started and haven't finished and you wanted to put through this project, like, you know, what does your creative process look like from that step through, I guess,
Yeah.
producing it yourself?
So there's definitely two phases. I mean, writing versus recording are very
Mm-hmm.
different. So sometimes I will just sit at the piano. I really like the piano as a writing tool. Having used guitar as a writing tool for so long, I like doing something different, and kind of just let my hands fall in places and see what happens. Sometimes it leads to a new song. Sometimes it doesn't. More often it doesn't. And if it does, then I'll sometimes try to translate it to guitar and see what that does to it, and then end up kind of going back and forth because it makes it a very different thing. Uh, Maybe lyrics occur to me, maybe different sections occur to me. It's very easy to write a song, like insert like start to finish music. For me, it's much. The next step is like, are there lyrics or a chorus or something, some idea that wants to come out in it, that wants to be expressed? I'm happy to produce just an instrumental song, but so if I can come up with a lyric, then maybe. Most recently, I've then kind of taken to social media and kind of made a video and been like, "Hey, I wrote a new thing. Here it is," and then to see if anyone finds that compelling. It doesn't influence me negatively if they don't necessarily, because if I find it interesting, I'll still pursue it. Um, so I do have this huge backlog of just little snippets of ideas, whether it's a full song or a chorus or a verse or whatever. And on some level, it ends up being like, if it keeps coming back like an intrusive thought to me, if I keep saying, "Oh, that song, that one thing I came up with, actually, you know, that one, that song called, you know, Out of Sight or whatever recent thing," I actually really want to finish that. I think that one's really good. Or if it just starts playing
Mm-hmm.
in my head, the song kind of has to insist on itself a little bit for me to finish it. Um,
You know, before we go on to the next part of it, I like that you're kind of using social media as a beta test.
mhm.
Is kind of what you said. You have the snippets of the things that you're working on essentially, and you're able to get basically immediate feedback
Yeah, yeah,
on what you're
totally.
doing. Have you seen that as, like, you know, a positive and or influential part of like what ones you take to the next step?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, yes and no, because I mean, I mean, I have just dozens and dozens of songs, some of which, many of which are finished, and may not work as well now. I don't know if I love the lyrics as much as I used to, but so it's good. It's great fodder for social media. So even just I have songs, I'll play it in social media, and that might be all it is. Um, but it does give me the opportunity to test it out and forces me, it's like having a deadline a little bit. It forces me to flesh it out a little bit more, just enough so that I can present it to someone, but not enough so I would say it's done or ready to be recorded or I know what I want for bass or drums or whatever. And if there's, so actually, I mean, actually, yeah, then someone typically recently, I've done it a few times and people have said, I really like this. This is interesting. And so then I kind of earmark that and I say, well, I should make sure to get back to that one. but and then I mean, in terms of recording, I need a much stricter filter because just the amount of energy it takes to record something is much higher than you know write a snippet, put it on social media. I mean, I could do that all day. I could do 10 different ones, over the next 2 hours, and some of them would sound similar, some wouldn't, and there might be two pretty good ones in that. But like that's easy to do. But in terms of turning it into a recorded version, then it's like, well, what about it is, what do I want to bring out? Do I want it to sound more organic versus more electronic? Do I want, like I'm working on, there's like a group of 4 songs I have in my head right now. 2 are older songs of mine, and so that I want to record and get out in the next, I don't know, 3 months. And so this forced me to finish the lyrics on one of them because I'm saying, okay, I want to record it. I did record social media versions of both of the older ones just to kind of get people just to see what people thought, and so that was cool. That was interesting, and that was nice. It was fun. And then the 2 newer ones, one of them I kind of had it partially fleshed out, and so I'm kind of arguing with Logic about what the song should be, with my digital audio workstation. And the other one I haven't even started recording yet, but I have most of the lyrics. The song kind of wrote itself. It's one of those, and so they can work either way. Either like the whole song comes out and it's ready, and I feel like, okay, I should really get it recorded, or maybe it just keeps recurring to me. So, but it is different, like from ideation to like final recording and production. Because there's only so much time in the day. And I mean, a song, it can be fine if a song is just I write it and record it on social media. Maybe that's all it ever becomes.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, it also though argues for some type of simplification, because I kind of want to do this maximalist approach. It's just like I always do it, and it's so annoying to me. Versus like maybe a song really should just be me and an acoustic guitar. Maybe that's what this one should be, just to make it different.
I like that perspective on it because sometimes, like, and I actually had this conversation with my last interview. Like he also has a similar background. He has a past with sync licensing. He kind of said that it's a what's it called, a essentially maximalist version of whatever he's gonna make. So he kind of was saying that he had to figure out where and when he was going to pull back to that acoustic sound, like
Right.
or like where that line is, which is I thought, I relate to that too, because I want to do everything at max. I want to do everything at max capacity. But if you look at my
Yeah.
personal Instagram account, I shoot every single thing that you see on there on my phone. I don't want to touch a camera and make it more complicated because I know I won't get it out. So it's
Sure.
cool to hear that there's like both sides of that, and that's kind of also something that you also are, I guess, figuring out for yourself, just like I'm figuring it out for myself.
Well, and it's hard too because you want to just get. Sometimes you have to just give yourself an allowance to just let something go. And as a music, like I like bands like Guided by Voices. They have a couple albums they put out. I think are some of the best albums, by any indie rock band, and they are so lo-fi. And so it really is like you really need to question your assumptions and like be like no be willing to just be flexible with yourself. I mean, there's also like because you're just going to get in your way. You're going to get in your way all the time when you're writing and recording. I mean, just perpetually.
I mean, it's the same with video too. I can sit there and I can edit a music video for 4 hours or 16 hours, and it could be
Sure.
the same music video.
Right. Yeah.
So, David, I want to ask you the question I ask everyone on this interview show, and you can take it in whatever direction you'd like. So, what would be your advice to someone starting out in music now?
Um, Advice. I mean, I think probably first is have a backup plan. Um, like for real. Like there's a quote I heard from, gosh, there was some musician, a child of a musician who had played in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and they said back then The saying was, real musicians have day jobs. Um, and I think there is something to that, because if you're imagining that you're going into music to make money or become famous and make money. Famous, usually when someone says I want to be famous, they usually mean I want to be wealthy. You're basically saying that you want to be a cabinet maker, um, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you need to understand that's what you're claiming. That's what you're the direction you're going, and that means find out, and that's fine. Find out what kind of music sells, where does it sell, who buys it, etc., 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 etc. You're explicitly launching a side business. You need to have a job to do that. You need to have a stream of income. If you want to be playing live and attracting fans and touring, that's actually a totally different thing than what I just outlined. You're probably still, statistically, especially now, you're probably still never going to make any money. So you still should have something else you do. And there's more ways to have a day job than ever. And I mean, like, I work remotely. I currently am working from home. There's ways to do this and still pursue your art and your creative expression interests. But that's all structural, and I see a lot of people, because they get very demoralized by, like, oh, no one's listening to my music, or you see on TikTok, or day 45 of promoting my song until I can make this a day job, and it's like, that's going to be day like 3040. Like, you're get a day job, like, get a job. There's nothing wrong with getting a job. Or move to Nashville and move to, like, quadruple down in the direction of where the business happens. Learn that business. It is business. Like, if you are opposed to understanding business, you shouldn't go into music. If you are opposed, like, because you are launching your own small business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you just want to make cool stuff and play with friends and release music and not worry about it too much, a little promotion here and there, that's fine. I actually think I love learning music theory because it helps me understand music. I like learning new instruments. I mean, I think understanding songwriting as a craft, but also, like, learn just enough to be able to express yourself. Learn to play songs you like. Understand the difference between style and content. I mean, there's, like, so many, like, most of what people think is corny about, like, there's all these corny love songs from the 80s. It's actually the production. If you take away the production and just make it a person and a piano or a person and a guitar, the song sounds totally different. And it's from Islands in the Stream to, I don't know, what have you. So there's a lot to learn, but you don't need to be perfect at any of it. It's more like being excited to learn, and you can start off wherever you are, and it's totally fine. But I just think you will enjoy it more if you approach it from an excited to learn mindset, as opposed to the idea that I am an artist, I'm 22, and maybe I'm a musical genius. Because it's like, you might be, but what if you're not? And what if you want to stack the deck in favor? I mean, it's the David Bowie theory, where, like, David Bowie talked a lot about how he was explicitly not a genius. He was smart, and he worked hard, and he worked perpetually. And he would hire musicians and be like, okay, guys, go do weird stuff, and then I'm going to lay something down over it. And he got the coolest, weirdest musicians of the day, and they would do their thing, and he would do something over it. And so it's like, work as smart as you can in case you're not a genius, because you probably aren't. Someone might be. I mean, and that's great. That's great. But don't count on that saving your butt.
I really like the fact that you are talking a little bit about, the day job version of things. And I also like that you're talking about, working smarter, not harder, because those are two things that, especially in the, like, when I'm doing my strategy meetings and consulting, those are some of the things that I talk about, because like, one of the big things, and I'm just going to do the kind of like a quick tangent and then get to the last question, because I want to make sure that, we get to everything in here. But one of the biggest things is them understanding business and changing that structure of their life so that they can actually sustain this, because a lot of people come to me and they're like, I don't have enough time for this, or I want to figure out how to make music some sort of yes, like, day job, but, like, more so, like, I want to have something related to music as my
Yeah.
day job and things
Right.
like that. And those are
Mm.
some of the things that they come to me about. And I'm like, all right, well, you know, these are monetizable skills. These are things that you
Right.
can make shifts towards, but you also have to make sure that you're ready to make those shifts in your structure of your life. Because, like,
Yeah.
I'm in one of those transitional moments right now. And, like, you know, being able to have someone to help guide you through those transitional moments is also helpful.
Totally. No, it's a marathon versus sprint mindset. That if you're viewed as a marathon, like I'm, that's why I'm doing music now. I'm just kind of like, well, I'm still doing it because I care about it, and it's just what I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you view it as a sprint, and there's that view, like again, if it's your business, it's like the idea of like making your own startup. You really should set a time. You should say, okay, I'm going to work on this for 18 months, and I'm going to put everything into it. And if at the end of 18 months I'm not at this point, I'm going to do something else. And you need to be realistic with yourself. But if you're like, unless you're, I'm just going to go for the long haul, and I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, and I'm going to start chipping away at it. It's a completely different mindset.
Definitely, definitely. So my last question is, where can people find you? Where can people find your music?
My favorite place for people to find my music is Spotify, under Dream Optimist. Technically, I'm on Apple Music too, but under an old, I had to change my name because of a legal conflict, which not a problematic one. It was very simple and straightforward, and Apple hasn't updated that. It's been a long time, and I don't know if they ever will. So Spotify, Dream Optimist.
Spotify.
Also, though, I mean, probably right now in priority order in terms of like where I tend to hang out, it's so Spotify for sure. Um, TikTok and Instagram, I do spend time there. I've started kind of going live on TikTok occasionally. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of fun. Sometimes I'm working on recording. Sometimes I'm just hanging out. Sometimes I'm playing music. I don't have a regular schedule, but I'm there, and it's pretty fun. I've been enjoying that. Instagram, similarly, not doing the lives there yet. I don't know if I will. I guess if TikTok goes away, maybe. But
Well,
it's
no, in the
less of
future.
a, yeah. So that's in terms of social media. That, but really fundamentally to hear what I'm doing, and what I've produced, yeah, Spotify is the place to start.
Awesome, awesome. So, David, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I really appreciate it. I feel like I could talk to you for another 3 hours and still have things to talk about, but unfortunately, we ran out of time for this. But
That's it.
thank you so much, and make sure you guys are following Dream Optimist. And I will see you guys at the next
Thank
interview.
you very much. Thank you.